Another one? Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. We've got a packing story night, but I do have 2 small batches of things we can unbox. So I was shopping on Reverb one day, and a model shows up that I just recently bought that was damaged in transit that I'm really looking for. But to my surprise, this exact rare version of the Paul met almost an identical fate. So I wanted to check it out in person. So let's go ahead and see what the damage is. It's another Candy Apple Red the Paul. So we reviewed it in this episode down here, so I don't think I need to re-review it, but that last one had a heel break that just like cracked here. Guitar Center said they repaired it, and then it just did not survive the shipping process, so it got sold off as a project. So when I saw this, I got scared that, did this meet the exact same fate? No, that just looks like a scratch of some sort. However, as we come up here, we can tell this has a headstock repair. It's far from the worst, but I feel like it could have been sanded down a little bit better so you don't feel it anymore. But wow, this one's got a pretty chunky weight to it. Like, it's not excessive, but it's a little heavier than that last one. But I noticed something as soon as I took this out of the case. First off, we've got some pretty cool finish checking all over this. You can see an area where it's worn through to the silver clear coat. Now, the reason for this is if you look over here, there's a few mystery holes by the bridge. Somebody put one of those MIDI pickup systems on there, you know, like the Rolands. So this is probably caused by an adhesive from the unit that they slapped onto right there. So if you ever see holes by the bridge, it's for one of those pickup systems. Then unfortunately, the Tim Shaw PAFs are already gone out of this. If I remember correctly, it looked like it was 57 Classics from the seller's photos. And somebody has added a custom pick guard to it. But check out this awesome ebony fretboard. That is glass smooth. It's been played into this territory. I love the ebony boards when they're like that. And the truss rod cover's been replaced, but at least we still have the flip out winding tuners, so that's cool. But you might have noticed the neck is suspiciously more red than the body. Like, this is more of a washed out red, kind of fire engine. And then you get over here and you can actually tell like the original Candy Apple. So it's pretty obvious this thing was resprayed, because if you look at the back of the headstock, our custom shop edition decal is no longer the usual color it is. It's been sprayed over. You can even see a little bit of something around our logo there. But that was a nasty break, complete through the top of the headstock. So if that wasn't enough, how else can you tell that it's been refinished? We've got red over the side of the nut, which you would not have that in this particular era of Gibson, looking exactly like this. And looking at the heel, we do have a buildup of something around there. It's possible the neck had to be reset, but I guess now that I feel it, the neck feels proud, and it's probably because they resprayed the entire neck. That would be my best guess, but I don't know the full history on this one. It's a player's grade one again. I will keep looking for that clean one for my collection, but hey, it's always cool to have another one of these, because they did not make too many in this finish with the gold hardware. But hey, you know what else is different here? This is a Nashville style bridge. I didn't even think of that. Usually these have the harmonicas. If you really look down there, I think I can see the filled in stud, and then they put this on there. Now, why would somebody do that? Well, A, to make it look more traditional, and B, to fit that MIDI pickup. So that is a modification I didn't even realize this thing had. But from the seller's photos, that is an era correct bridge. It's just on upside down. And we've got the original knobs yet. So very cool. If you want to learn more about this particular model, again, check out the full review and demo. And then these next 2 packages we can open in tandem. I'd received a message from a viewer of the show saying, hey, there's some interesting items at Will Cut Guitars if you want to check it out. And I love emails like that. I'm always constantly scouring Reverb, so I see almost everything that gets listed there. But when it comes to smaller niche shops that don't list on the big major online marketplaces, sometimes you miss some really cool stuff, like at Gruhn's Guitars or any of the Nashville places. And this is one of those times where it's just such a unique item, and I like to collect these display cases. So there we go. One of these is supposed to be new old stock, like they just opened it when it first came and then put it back in. These original Gibson display cases are pretty cool in my opinion. So they made them a few years after the original custom shop opened. So the early ones do have the Custom Art Historic badge. But this right here is what makes this particular version unique, is usually you don't have all the marking to it. But like the early custom shop ones, like the Bob Marley's, would actually come with these cool display cases. And some of them are customized. Another one to consider is like the Rossington signatures. So this particular one, it's kind of limited what you could display in here. Like any 1958 reissue would be good. But this appears to be from around the time when they switched over into the Burstbucker pickups versus having the 57 Classics. So kind of a unique time capsule that has just been in Wilcut's storage for a long time. I would say this is the one that they definitely used in their display case though, because it's got a little bit more wear and tear and dust as compared to our other one over here. And we've got a little bit of separation down here. I really wish Gibson would go back to making something like these. I mean, I know nowadays they have those display case stands, but a lot of guys like to display them in a way that, you know, shows them off a little bit better. I always like the way guitars look hanging by the side, and I don't anticipate something like this being that expensive to make. But the downside to them being you're limited to what you can put in it due to them hanging by their strap buttons rather than a neck cradle on most of them. Like that Gary one we just saw, that's a hang-up one. But there you can see it with the Paul in it. I wouldn't mind something like this for my museum when I build them, but I want the protective UV glass over top of it then. And this just makes me worry a little bit. Like, it's secure enough, but I could see like in an earthquake situation where it could jump out. So if you could somehow incorporate like Schaller strap lock system, or maybe even like the Grolsch beer cap things over top of it then, and just paint them black so they kind of blend in. And then you have a small write-up for each custom case. I would love something like that. The problem is it just makes it more expensive to display everything. But I personally really like these display cases. They're cool. And when they do show up, they're typically pretty expensive nowadays. But now let's get on to our packing stories. Starting off our packing journey tonight, I'm really glad I ended up buying this one. The really cool blue quilted top with the matching blue quilted veneer headstock really drew me in, but I'm kind of glad it ended up being a 2012 because we got to learn about another era of history with the whole laminated fretboard situation. And then somebody in the comments pointed out to me something that I never really thought about when I sectioned them off into three main categories. When the true historics get brought in, the regular reissues actually get downgraded as far as like their neck tenon and stuff goes. So maybe they should also be sanctioned off in their own thing. But now I kind of want to try one of those. But understanding reissues 100% can be kind of difficult. So if you got the money, many times it's just easier to go for the newer ones. Our next one, I was saying in my big collection video for the end of 2023 that I would not be sad if nobody ever bought it, and then sure enough, day after, somebody buys it. I just love this teal color that they've got on these new custom color SGs, and the way that this one dances in the light. I just wish this was more of a limited edition guitar, because then I could justify it in my collection more, but it deserves to be played. I already regret letting this one go. This is another sad one. It's the Tuxedo Custom. I couldn't be happier with where it is going, though. It's being sent off to the UK to an up-and-coming rock star musician, so he wants to make this his own identity and replace Dokken within the history books. So good luck, man. I hope you enjoy this. It's already been refretted, just needs a little bit of TLC with the collapsed bridge, but this thing sounds phenomenal, so I think it's going to serve him well. So no reason to have this one locked up in my collection. I'll find a cleaner tuxedo one day, but this one's got the great vibes. Our next one, the video did the trick. It found a new home, the Walnut Stratocaster. Such a beautiful guitar. And I'm really glad I took the time to redocument it because the first time I reviewed this, it was just, you know, for fun. He dropped some guitars off. He said if I wanted to review them, I could, but he was just trying to get some appraisals written for his insurance policies. But I always thought, you know, the first video I made of this was like really popular. People don't want to see it again. But then when I watched it, I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot. I never got to tear it apart. And that's why I didn't want to put it on Reverb until I had personally torn it apart and verified everything. So one proper listing later, and this one is now going off to, I think it was Virginia. I hope the new owner really enjoys this special piece. Our next one's probably going to come across as a surprise and a deja vu moment. I sold 1979 again. This sale kind of came at an opportune time for me because that Mark Knopfler auction, letting this one go might actually give me a fighting chance to document one of those cool prehistorics. If you're newer to the show, when I did the review and documentation for this first run Adam Jones Les Paul, I said, hey, number 19 out of 79 would be really cool because you would have an additional 1979 on it because, you know, this is a 79 reissue and everything. So somebody who watches the show just happened to have 1979 and they sold it to me. But then similar situations to this, I put it up on Reverb, it sold, and then the guy who purchased it then within a week traded it into a shop because he wanted to buy this new vintage violin that hit the market. So I bought it back from that that dealer. And then I've always just considered this part of my personal collection. It's just a bit of a boomerang guitar. So I left it on Reverb and, here it is sold. Maybe it'll come back to me again another day. So don't cry for the loss of this one, because I'm hoping it's gonna let us document like a really cool guitar. Or that auction's going to go really, really crazy and I sold it for nothing. But whatever. Goodbye, 1979. I'll miss you. And maybe we'll cross paths again another day. Our next one to say goodbye to here is a big dog. It's the Adam Jones Flying V. I'm glad I picked one up to document. However, after this video, a few more of them did show up. But the story behind this one is it's going to Australia, and I ended up trading it for 2 very nice guitars. But this one's joining a collector who just loves signature guitars and wants like all the really coolest custom shop ones. And this one's definitely going to go down in infamy, whether you love it or not. It is a fun guitar and part of the whole Adam Jones family. Our next story was actually a local pickup situation. Someone had made an offer on the Gibson Live at the Regal, but they wanted to pick it up, which honestly doesn't happen that often for me, and I just prefer shipping because, documented proof that it went to you and everything. Because when you do a local pickup through Reverb, you have to have a bunch of other documentation, like a picture of them with the guitar and everything and their ID, just to make sure you're safe. But when he came here to pick up the guitar, I asked him if he was a BB fan or what made him choose this guitar, and he said it's because he kept watching the video multiple times and fell in love with the instrument. And then he said he left a comment saying that he wants this guitar so bad. And it's at that point I'm like, really? That was you? Because I'd responded saying it's for sale, because I just figured that was just some guy, daydreaming, oh, I want that guitar, but I can't afford it. But no, it actually turned out he was in the market, and it's because I responded to that comment that less than 24 hours later, he was there picking up the guitar. So that was just a funny little story that made me chuckle. And I'm glad that one went to a loving home. If you're new to the show, you probably didn't even realize that I ever had one of these. It's the Ibanez Ichika Nito signature. I was just a fan of him from his very early days of YouTube, so when this thing came out, I was like, yeah, let's check it out. And I did end up liking it. However, it was just a big pain in the butt. Because as we were checking it out, these pickups are ridiculously fragile. And I'm happy I'm not the only one that's had issues working on these guitars. Like, if you just look at them the wrong way, the leads pop off, so I had to buy a whole different set to swap out. I think it was the middle pickup. But now everything has found a new home. But now we've got this old friend that's stuck around for a lot longer than I was expecting, the SG Faded. Just not a lot of love for this model. People like it, they just don't like the price tag associated with these. So if you can pick one up for a deal around that 1700-ish mark, I think that's when they're a lot of fun. But unfortunately, they just can't be offered in retail stores at that price to start with. But if you can pick one up for a fair price, I would actually suggest them. They just don't feel worth it if you have to pay the full retail value though. But I was able to hook this viewer up with a deal. Next up, what sleeps in this case? I'm a little bit sad to let this one go. It's a Union Jack Explorer. One of the stop bar varieties. It's in okay condition, everything's considered. Like, it has your typical decal shrinkage to it, somebody moved a strap button, but it cleaned up beautifully. But this is known as the Union Jack Explorer. It's pretty much the rarest, most desirable guitar out of the designer series that Gibson did. It's a golden goose for many a collectors. But I've been pretty spoiled to have 3 of these in the same location, which is just a little bit overkill. So that's why I initially listed this one, because it's technically my runt. So I'll hold on to these 2. One with the stop bar variety, because I prefer it. One with the weird Gibson trem system, and then I guess the next one that shows up with the Kahler for a fair price, I'll go ahead and pick that up. That way I can have a trio set of all the different bridge variations. But there you go, that's a sight you don't see every day. Triple Union Jacks. Packing this one ends our saga. All of the limited colors series Les Paul standards have now sold. I was surprised this was the last one. It was within my top 3 of all my favorites. I mean, yeah, it's just the ebony top, but I thought for sure someone was gonna see the video and fall in love with the wood grain of this. Much sooner than what happened. I just love that little bullseye figuring pattern right there, and then like that little splotch. But if you're not into that, it had such a nice little ribbon mahogany stuff going on the back. I mean, if you're gonna get one that has an ebony top, you might as well have a little bit of extra along the backside. So I would love to do a big giant unboxing like that again sometime this year. Guess we'll have to see what models may or may not come out. Alright, Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, consider subscribing. I post videos like this every day. And you might even enjoy this next one.